Easy Sports Talk Show podcast with Ed Smith and Javon Adams. I am Javon Adams. That is Ed Smith. We do this thing 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Ed Smith is not only a former professional baseball player, but also played in that first Super Bowl bound team for the Atlanta Falcons. He's an author and he is a motivational speaker. What is good, my brother?
Hey, got the Super Bowl matchup set, man. Some crazy games yesterday. We got a lot to talk about.
Yes, sir. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's first game. Let's go with the Kansas City Chiefs at the Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs won 17-10. Interesting thing about this, at half, it was 17-7 in favor of the Chiefs. If you look at this, in terms of running wise, one of the things that going into it thought that maybe the Chiefs would have a hard time running the ball against that Ravens defense. And for the most part, yeah, I mean, Pacheco had 68 yards on the ground. Patrick Mahomes had 15, but Travis Kelce came alive in terms of from the receiving point of view. Had 11 receptions, 116 yards, 11 targets, 11 receptions. Rashee Rice had eight receptions on 9 targets for 46 yards. So some people contributed. But what was the most interesting to me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, was if you told me that the Baltimore Ravens would only have 81 yards total rushing, with 54 of those yards coming from Lamar Jackson, I would have said, nah, that can't be, man. And if that was the case, then I would say, yeah, the Ravens lose. And they did lose. There was Sheen knocked at the goal line, punched the ball out of Flowers' arms for a turnover that was definitely a momentum killer. What did you think about this game? Low scoring, but I thought there was still a lot of drama in that because the Chiefs defense really stepped up.
Yeah, you wonder what the Chiefs did to I'm gonna say force Baltimore out of their game plan, but make them change it. There's something, a lot of times we see the end result, or we see that another team didn't do this, and my thought process is, why didn't they? What did they see, or because what happens a lot of times, Jay, like for instance, a team can be like the Ravens. They love to run the ball. So what Kansas City will do is show them a certain look that will get them out of certain plays, and they disguise it. Maybe they bring 8 and 9 down into the box every time, but then they bail out of it. So so what's happening is the Ravens are seeing a certain look. We can't run against that, so let's call this, or let's check out of this to go to this. So I don't know what they did, because obviously we know what the strength of the Ravens is. It is their running game. And it's not just Lamar running; it's a combination of their backs. They got all these running backs. And for some reason they were baited or goaded out of their game plan, because they did not come to this game thinking we're only going to run the ball 16 times total, and 8 of those being Lamar Jackson. So that means 8 other snaps we ran the ball with our running backs, that type of thing. They didn't come in thinking that. Something Kansas City did, and it's the brilliance of game planning. It's the brilliance of all watching film and coming up with a scheme to make them do this or make them see this. And I credit, as much as I take, and you wonder what was wrong with the Ravens, you got to credit Kansas City for doing something, disguising something to pull the Ravens out of their norm. And man, it was whatever it was a scheme of brilliance.
I came across a stat that after the first quarter, the Ravens only rushed the ball about 4 or 5 more times after that first quarter. So, I mean, they really did abandon that. And I wonder if that is an indictment. Because as you mentioned, maybe they're seeing a front that says we can't run against that. But eventually you say, look, we're going to have to try to run against this. We're going to have to, we got to do what we do to a certain extent. Because the game wasn't out of hand at any time if they had just started. I mean, it was just, again, I mentioned the Flowers play when he had the ball punched out. I mean, they were marching down the field about to punch it in. And so that was a momentum killer. But so the game wasn't so much out of hand.
No, and and also you got the Ravens were out of sorts. They were out of their normally they're a very disciplined team. They did some things that cost them several times in this game, whether it be the Flowers taunting, whether it
Yeah,
be the Clowney hit on face mask to face mask on Mahomes, and then there was another one where somebody came across his face mask with the sickle. They gave him the
yeah,
sickle, bruh.
right. Yeah,
That,
they
and
did.
there was certain things that were just out of character, and I don't know what it was, but we talked about it on the show the other day, the radio show. Remember, we talked a little bit about who had been there and who hadn't, and
Yeah, yeah,
until you get there, you just don't know what you don't know, and sometimes that pressure will make you, just do crazy things. The Chiefs have been there. This is their 6th one in a row, and they were just calm and as cool and collect. You saw a couple times with like late flags and stuff like that. Chiefs backing away, whereas the Ravens were
yeah,
the aggressors, out of character, and it was one of those things, man, where like I said, we saw it happen, and golly, it's just I don't know. This is one of those ones you scratch your head and you ask yourself, did the better team win? The better team won yesterday on the field, not
yeah.
necessarily wise, but the heart of a champion. That's what they talk about all the time.
And they won a different way. So we know we've talked about. I even tried to give the clumsy analogy of they're that fighter that they injure their shoulder, maybe their power punching shoulder, which is their offense, and they have to try to win the fight a different way. And this year, their defense was really was really one of the best defenses in the league, and so that showed. And I heard a quote from Mahomes saying that when the defense is playing the way that they are, I just have to pull back a little bit and make sure that I'm managing the ball, just getting the ball out of my hands quickly so as not to mess it up. And I'm sure that's a hard thing, especially when historically you've had a team, when you've had an offense or led an offense that was so powerful, that packed a punch in terms of its ability to put points up on the board, and you have to switch your mentality a little bit, and that takes experience, and that takes being in the league a few years.
It does, and also you have to take into account. We all know what these games, when you come into them, they're not always going to work. Your game plan is not always going to work right out of the box, and you have to be ready to adjust. We saw a Kansas City team that as you mentioned the fighter analogy, they just kept jabbing, and just trying to scoring points, bro. And we know it was a low scoring game, but they were just scoring points, jab, and the Ravens, man, it looked like who was is it Mayweather? That's all. It was like they were trying to find that hard, and they just couldn't do it. It just looked ugly. And by the end of the game, it was like the Chiefs won on an ugly decision, but it was 10 rounds to none. I mean, they did just enough to do. Ugly fight, but golly.
I hear you, and that's what Lamar Jackson. They did a good job of containing him. I mean, I know he got 54 yards rushing, but I thought they did it for the most part a good job of containing him, and that was one of the concerns that I had going into the game. If the Ravens were going to win, then Lamar was probably going to break loose and scramble and be able to do some of those things. But I think that they, for the most part, kind of kept him in check, and now they obviously move on to the Super Bowl. Any other thoughts about this game?
Just like I said, until you beat the man, you can't beat a man. I mean, this was one of those. And you talked at the beginning. You talked about Kelsey. What did we say the other day, man? Chiefs have not looked real what you call great all year long.
Right.
But all you're looking in this fight, all you're looking for, we just got scored just one more point than them. And Kelsey came out. He looked old. He's looked battered up all season. For the most part, not all season, but these last few weeks, he comes out and has one of his best games of the season in this game, and that's all it takes, man.
And plus, if again, I mentioned that the score was 17-10. So that means that they didn't score in the second half, and so that's. Yeah, the defense really had to step up. You have to give kudos to the defense because they really the Ravens can put points up on the board, and when your offense isn't giving you even more. And it's one thing to say, just give us 17 and we got this game, y'all. You couldn't say that a couple seasons ago.
Yeah. And once again, Jay, this is one of those games that from the very beginning, Baltimore just didn't look right, and they never got it right. It was one from sometimes you watch these games like San Fran last week, not this week, but last week, did not look right all game long. And in that final drive against the Packers, they pulled it all together. This one, Baltimore looked just not quite right all the way from start all the way to finish.
Indeed. He is Ed Smith. I'm Javon Adams. This is the Easy Sports Talk Show with Ed Smith and Javon Adams. Again, we do this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So let's get into this game, the Detroit Lions going into Santa Clara, California to face the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers were victorious 34-31. At a certain point in this game, at halftime, it was 24-7 Detroit. And I thought, this is going to make San Francisco have to change its game plan a little bit. They're going to have to alter it a bit, really put that ball up in the air and do some things. But at the end of this game, I mean, the final score was 34-31. So we know that San Francisco turned it around. There were in the first half, I believe the Lions were in the red zone 3 times. They got 2 scores, 2 out of 3 times. But the third time, they had an opportunity to at least kick a field goal. I know that they were so close to the end zone, but Campbell decides to go for it and they don't get it. Then in the last drive of the game for the Lions, really, they're down by 3. They can try to tie it up and let's make this a game with 3-4 minutes left. Let's make this a game and see if we can stop them, that type of thing. They go for it on 4th and 3, I believe it was, and they come up short. And I'm thinking, no, somebody had to try to veto this man, but this is what he's been all season long. So I guess he went out the way that that went out swinging, so to speak. But I thought those were 2 decisions that they were egregious. Even if you are the most aggressive coach, sometimes you just got to take the easy way out and get these points. But what did you think about this game? And plus, your man Brock Purdy in that second half, he stepped up.
Yeah, man. This is one where I'm looking at Coach. I'm like, Coach, I know you got a philosophy. I know we're always going to want to be aggressive. But in both those instances, you take the points. Yeah. You're ahead. It's 24-7. You keep piling on. At this point, the 3 is just as good as the 7 because you got a lead. You're adding on to your lead. Yeah. And that first one, it's like, scratching your head, you just gave away 3. And also, Jay, what you did, you gave away momentum. You and I were texting during the game. The second they did that, and then the 49ers got the ball and they went down and they scored. That was the biggest shift in the game. Yeah. And then the other one, the second one, I'm scratching my head even more. You're behind now. You've seen the momentum shift. You can tie the game. Whereas you tie the game is a whole different situation. Now, even if they get the ball and go down and score, which they did, it's still a 1-score game. Or if you stop them, now you have the opportunity to go down and win the game. And you don't take the field goal. You don't take the 3 points to tie the game. Man. And it's live by the sword, die by the sword, Jay. But this is one of those situations where this is premeditated murder. This is premeditated murder. You were going to do this. You were waiting for the opportunity to show everybody this is how I roll. And it was like, it was not necessary. Every situation, every circumstance is not the same. Yeah. Some downs are worth kicking the field goal, taking the points, licking your wounds, live to fight another day. And Campbell just didn't do it. He couldn't help himself. He couldn't help himself. He was waiting for those opportunities to do what he does, and you can't go into it thinking like that. Yeah, it's when I made up my mind before we even got off the plane in San Fran. I mean, the first opportunity we're going to do it. I'm telling you, we're going to do it. And in this situation, bro, you're right too. Somebody on that staff, he's got to have a second in command that calls down to him. Dan, no, Dan, we got to kick the field goal here. And Dan, no, we have to kick the field goal here because, and then, okay, send the field goal unit out. That has to be a change that they have to make. And if I'm ownership, I'm like, Dan, look, hey, man, we love you're aggressive and everything, but hey, every now and then it's okay to kick the field goal. We got to put somebody in place, second in command, that can be, like you said, veto it, talk some sense to the man in the heat of the moment, whatever it is, because that costs the team. And then, San Fran, what can you say, bro? No panic.
Sometimes I'm gonna let you finish, but one of the things that sometimes, what is it? Luck is the being exceptionally prepared, or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah.
But the ball bounces off of the defender's helmet, the Detroit defender's helmet, bounces into who was the receiver? Ayuk, and he would, and how that doesn't happen. It bounces off his face mask and into Ayuk's hands. And they end up scoring on that play. I mean, on that drive, and that those things happen. That's why you got to take your points, because you never know how it bounces. But go ahead, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I'd rather be lucky than the good any day in the week, man. I mean, that was just one of those, not giving up on the play, however you want to call it. That's what great athletes do. I mean, and they make that play. The ones that aren't expecting it or not playing to the end whistle, they give up on it. And all of a sudden they try to get there, and they're just a hair late, ball on their fingertips, hits the ground. It would have been a great play, but it wasn't.
Some drops by Detroit too in that second half. It was getting to him.
Yeah, and then you could see, like I said, 24-7, and not as bad as 28-3 a few years ago in the Super Bowl, but this is one of those collapses that, oh man, sometimes they're hard to come back from. Yeah. And you and I talk about this all the time. You know how hard it is to climb the mountains, eh? Everything the Lions did correct this year to get to where they were, and we're that close and up that big. And now you got to start all over at 0-0 next, fall, and try to climb that mountain again. It's a little depressing. Yeah. And for this team, and I don't think they'll be. Look, think about this. Where have the Falcons been since 28-3?
Ooh.
I mean, it's hard, bro. Yeah. You think we're just going to turn this around? We're going to do it next year. Other teams are getting better. You don't have all the great wins that and clutch wins you did last year. And now we're in the middle of the pack instead of the front of the pack like we were this year. And now we got to repeat this process. Yeah. Man, I'm telling you, this was the opportunity of opportunities. If the Lions had come out and they were down 24-7 and fought back and lost 34-31, that would have been so much bigger than being up 24-7 and losing it the way they did. Because like I'm telling you, I was thinking about it last night, bro. I've been on that plane ride home, and now it's over, and you got to think of it, man. That's like, this is like, they talk about putting salt in the wound. Yeah. This is like somebody knocking on your door every day for the next 3 months. Hey, I got some salt. Got to put it in there, bro. All you can do is lift up the shirt, bro, because this one's going to sting for a long time. And not just we're going to put some salt in there. We got to cut that open a little more and just, it looks like it's healing too much. Come here real quick. Somebody going to say something to remind you. And there we go. Let's put a little salt in there. Man, this one's going to hurt. They were that close. And then lastly, every time you see your coach, you can't say anything, but you're like, damn, bro, just kick the field goal. Just kick the field goal.
Yeah,
that's gonna hurt,
true.
Bro.
And so without, we got to give credit to the San Francisco 49ers, because again, if you look at what Christian McCaffrey, 20 carries for 90 yards. What is it? Debo Samuel, 8 receptions for 89 yards. He was targeted 9 times. Ayuk, the aforementioned Ayuk, 3 receptions, had a touchdown, 68 yards, was targeted 8 times. Christian McCaffrey had 4 receptions for 42 yards. Again, it was in Juszczyk, Kittle, Jennings. I mean, there were contributions from everybody. Yeah, and I think that after kind of again a shaky first half for Purdy, he came back and he was still focused in that second half and made plays. So you have to give him credit, as he's going to be now. He's the legend of Brock Purdy. He continues to grow.
The other thing too, Jay, you got to give credit to that coaching staff. They didn't panic, and then
I thought they would. I told Elijah, my youngest, I said, I think that if the 49ers get down by 2 touchdowns, I think they're going to start tweaking, and they didn't. They kept chopping wood.
In their game plan, came right out in the second half. When they started running the ball in the second half, even with Samuel and stuff like that, and getting McCaffrey going, and I was like, hey, they're staying with it. They're not, because they very easily, you could have looked up, Purdy ended up with 31 pass attempts. Very easily, he could end up with like 45 or something like that. Totally out of their character. They stayed in character. Even Purdy got into the running game when he had to. Stayed in game plan. They had enough time.
Talk about a breakdown, though. When Purdy had that big scramble, come on, man. Purdy had that big scramble. The Lions defense, the linebackers, it was just wide open for him. What are you doing?
He just squeaked, right? Well, that's man. Guess the problem with playing man coverage.
Yeah,
everybody's turned and they're in pursuit of the routes and stuff, and that's where you'll see quarterbacks when they recognize man coverage. A lot of time they get out of there right away because they know nobody's looking at them. If it was zone, all eyes would have been on him. They would have rallied to the point. But that was just luck of the draw sometime. But it was, perfect escape by him. And getting out, and he showed them legs. Them little legs wasn't moving like Murray, but they was moving, bro.
Man, what was funny? Because I for some reason I completely forgot that the 49ers they faced the Chiefs a few years ago, and but they had Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
And so that now it's a rematch of sorts. So we get down into the breakdown and all that stuff right now, but man, it's a lot of what could have been when it comes to the Detroit Lions. Even for the Baltimore Ravens, it's a little bit of that, but kudos to the 49ers for coming back, for staying with it. And again, I would have been the coach that said, we got to tweak it. We got to put that ball in the air. But maybe, just maybe, they know that despite knowing that they had to put a little bit more on Brock Purdy's shoulders, they know there's only so much right now in his career that we can put on him. So we got to stick to our game plan, because if we go too much outside of it, he's not ready for all that just yet.
Well, he's got a confidence builder like you can't imagine right there, bro. That was, it was nice to see that young man from Chandler, Arizona, out here in our neck of the woods. And I know some people who work with him. They have these little football camps and stuff out here. From everything I've heard, great young man. And you talking about a beautiful story. And I'm waiting to all the pundits who've been, hey, he's just a game manager. He's this, that. I want to hear if anybody's gonna be eating any crow through the week, talking about he's just the game manager and stuff like that. Yeah, he managed to bring them back from a 24/7
loss. Well said. He is Ed Smith. I am Javon Adams. We do this on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in podcast form, the Easy Sports Talk Show with Ed Smith and Javon Adams. You can also go to easysportstalk.com to find out about the other things that we do. Every Saturday, we have a terrestrial radio show that's in 98 markets across the country. But if you're not one of those markets, then you can go to sportsmapradio.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the little play icon, or you can download the app for your mobile or Android device. And then we also do believe in the Arizona Cardinals, and that we do, since it's the offseason, we'll be doing it probably every other week, so bi-weekly, as they say. And you can find that there, or go to believe.com, or wherever you find your podcast. Just search Believe in Cardinals. And so, as we always like to say around this time, well, congratulations. We got a Super Bowl rematch. So we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the San Francisco 49ers. So it's going to be interesting. We'll get into all that good stuff. But on behalf of Ed Smith, I'm Javon Adams. And as we always like to say around this time, you can